Well, yeah, let's kick it off. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, Jared. I've been looking forward to this one for a while.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So I guess I typically have the guests give a rundown on themselves, but I'd love to kind of interject based on our conversations. I actually originally met you when we were going against each other and we were working for rival companies.
Wow. Yeah. When was this? Like maybe 7, 8 years ago?
Would have been 2019 to 2021.
Oh, okay.
So, but I thought it was awesome because when I first met you, or like in person, and you're like, oh yeah, I do this and that. I used to own a company. Oh, no kidding. What's the name of the company? Because most people, like the luthier community, like the guitar builder community, is very tight knit. Those guys know each other. And when you said Brandonwound, I'm like, no kidding. I remember I used to go up against you in so many bids, so many OEM bids. And for people that don't know, OEM means you pretty much build a product, put someone else's name on it, and then send it off with their specs. So we used to go up against you guys, and I always remember people were like, yeah, I'm already with Brandonwound, I'm good. Or, well, can you do a better price? And I'm like, as soon as I met you, I'm like, I got to tell you about this. This is just amazing. But give everybody a rundown on who you are and what you do currently, because it's even cooler than that.
Yeah. So, Jared Brandon, that's my name. Right now I work for Gibson, but before that, I could. How far do you want me to go?
Since the beginning of time.
Okay. I was born December 17th, 1977. No, so
I was conceived at a Foghat concert during the song Slow Ride.
I will start early because I think that's important because that's going to add context to where I'm at today. So I went to elementary school in the early 80s, up until 1990 I went to junior high. So during the 80s, hyperactive attention deficit disorders like me, we would take this stuff called Ritalin. That's all they had back then.
Mm-hmm.
So it either worked or it didn't. So I had a tough time in school concentrating. I always passed school until junior high. I was just a daydreamer. I didn't want to do the math. I didn't want to do all this stuff. It's not because I didn't know how to do it. It's because I would think about taking stuff apart and trying to make things and be creative. I didn't care about, story problems and all the academics at school. Some of the stuff I enjoyed at school, but not everything. I had a tough time passing school. I remember in elementary school, I had teachers tell me that the world was going to chew me up and spit me out. I'm serious. They told me in a very stern, mean way, and they were crotchety old ladies that they only liked the, kids that sat in the front row and raise their hand all the time. They raise their hand first, and I just wasn't one of those go-getter type students. I was always thinking about what I was going to do after school. What am I going to do? What fort am I going to build with my friends? What am I going to build? Like getting into gasoline engines and discovering all that growing up. So that's my growing up years. My parents believed in me. They fought for me. My mom and dad, they always helped me advance to the next grade. I passed high school, went into the military for 3 years. It was great. I don't regret that at all.
Military right out of high school?
Right out of high school because I knew I wasn't going to college. So I just was not college type. I just was not. So I knew I couldn't sit around and do some sort of mall job. I had a job at the mall after high school, maybe for 6 months. And
What job at the mall? What was it?
I worked at Jeans West. I don't even know if you know what that store is.
No clue.
So Jeans West is a clothing store. It wasn't Merry-Go-Round. The Merry-Go-Round back in, and a lot of Gen X know what I'm talking about. There was a store called Merry-Go-Round that they sold all the popular kids kind of, clothing like IOU and Skids and all that kind of thing. If you were wearing IOU, Skids, Bugle Boy, etc., used jeans, and then had the Air Jordans, then you were in. Like the Air Jordan 4s, 5s, 6, that was my junior high when those were popular.
No kidding.
And if you had that stuff, then you were cool. You were in. It was so materialistic. It was sick. So that's the merry-go-round. But at the mall, I worked at a place called Jeans West. It was okay. It was nice clothes. Being at the mall was cool. I just graduated high school. It was in 1996, and Kiss just got back together and went on tour. So that was a big deal. That was a big deal, man. They were back in the full makeup. They were. So I remember that. Oasis was popular, I think. I think that's when they started to be popular, and
Oh, heck yeah.
yeah, back in that era.
I love Oasis.
Third Eye Blind, Creed, a year, excuse me, maybe a year later, but all that stuff started to come around. But like when I was in high school, it was Soundgarden and Nirvana. I was in high school when Kirk shot himself, and kids crying in the hallway, and
Kids were crying in the hallway?
all that. Oh yeah, man. The kids couldn't take it because, well, Nirvana, like before 1990, 91, like rock and roll, like Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and all those hair metal bands, they were still king, and Poison and those bands were still king. And then 91, like the Violent Femmes and all this underground stuff started to surface, and Nirvana and all that kind of thing started to take over, and I didn't like it at first. I don't like change. I like the old heavy metal. I like the Bon Jovi even, and I admit it. I don't care. So, but back then, yeah. So even like back then in the 90s, if you admitted you liked Bon Jovi, people thought you were whatever. But now it's, I don't even want to talk about the music today, but back then that's the era that I grew up in. So I did the Army time in the mid to late 90s. I got out. I immediately went into construction because my dad was in the brick industry, so I became a mason. And at that point, I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have got into pickups then, but there was nothing that triggered me to do that at that time, so I didn't. I was doing construction. In 2001, I was on a union job when September 11th happened. I remember that. So I was working. Know where I was? I was in Oberlin, Ohio, the Oberlin College, known for jazz music. But anyway, so that happened. It wasn't until maybe 2004 or 5 I really started to get into tearing up guitars and getting into pickups.
Did you play music in high school?
I did. I played a lot of music. In fact, this T-shirt, established in 1995. This is a Stranger shirt. That's the band I was in high school. We called ourselves Stranger, and me and my friend Mike Belcher. He wrote a lot of the music, and we still work together on GarageBand just for the fun of it. We do ideas, and we still play, and we still work on things back and forth. And I'll post it on Facebook or whatever, but nobody listens. But we don't care. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy making the music, and we don't care. We're not trying to draw a crowd or market or anything. It's just guys stuck in the 90s, and people that influenced us were like the Guns N' Roses and Nirvana and all that kind of thing. But anyway, I was working construction, and I would get laid off work, and all winter long I was getting unemployment, and I would just start messing with guitars. And one day I said, I'm going to try to fix a pickup. So I started buying these broken pickups off eBay. Now back then, eBay was really the only marketplace where you can buy used things like that. And find it. Like I think there was Craigslist, but you were more likely to find stuff on eBay, and the way they had it set up, it was really easy. You knew what you were getting most of the time. And my education was buying as many broken pickups as possible. All the big people would sell these big lots of just broken, whatever, they don't know what they are, pickups. And I've gotten some really nice vintage pickups in some of those lots. And I'm telling you, I scored a lot of really good finds back in the eBay days. Yeah. And those days are over. I don't do it anymore, but I do miss it.
A lot of it's changed. It was cool because I got a little bit of that when I was younger where, I mean, it was shopping for cheap guitar parts or cheap this or cheap that. And I remember I bought was it like $200 for like a pedal lot, and it had like, most people aren't, we're going to geek out for a second, but like it had like an Eric Clapton Stratotone pedal, and it had just a bunch of crazy stuff. And with all that stuff, I remember it being, I kept what I wanted and took and resold the rest for like $900 or $1,200.
Yeah. Some guy gave me this gift. Sometimes when I was rewinding pickups, and that's what I did first. So I rewound pickups off of eBay. I had an eBay. I didn't have a website or anything. I would just go on eBay and I'd have this listing that said rewind repair Gibson DiMarzio Fender, and I listed all the names. And a few months later, I got an actual email from DiMarzio saying, "Take me off your listing."
Oh, imagine that!
I'm just this guy that barely knows what I'm doing, and you're coming after me.
Oh, and to recap too, a guitar pickup. That if you're looking at like a Strat or any sort of electric guitar, it's the piece in there that actually grabs the strings and puts it through the cables. So when you're playing, you can hear the strings nice and loud. It's what amplifies it. So just for people that don't know, it's like the heartbeat of a guitar. Like if you've got a guitar and you're looking to change the tone, a lot of people will be like, well, you got to do this or do that. Typically, if you're changing the tone on an electric guitar, it's the pickups. I'd argue that's where you start, 80% of the tone.
That's where you start. Yeah.
But
and you want to pick up that picks up the actual natural sound of what the guitar makes. And when you get into the real high output stuff, but we can get into that a little later if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
But anyway, so
yeah, go for it.
Oh, right now?
Oh, okay. No. Now let's do the so you're surfing eBay, you're grabbing some parts.
You're surfing eBay, yeah, back to the timeline. Surfing eBay 2004, 2005, 2006-ish, and I'm getting parts. And my first winder I made from a drill, and it was pretty, it was just a mess. And then I encapsulated the drill motor with you remember the muff pedals?
Yeah.
With the big wooden box. So I used a muff pedal box. I still have it. I saved it after all these years.
Oh my gosh!
When I got started to get serious, I bought a Shatton winder from Stumac.
Yeah,
they were making these. They were buying these Shatton winders made out of Canada. I wore the crap out of them, man. I went through 3 or 4, and I would send it back to not Sweetwater, but I would send it back. I would send it back to Stumac, and they would send me a new one. Huh. That was really great because and let's talk about pickup parts too. So when I first started building my own brand, like my own thing, that's before Facebook.
Yeah.
That's before Facebook had any actual groups that you can join where all these numbskulls, and some of them are my friends now, but I think they're numbskulls for doing that because they're sharing all of the information.
Yeah.
They're sharing everything. And it's like, what are you guys doing?
And to clarify, too, I mean, a lot of that, dumb it down, one of the big things with the luthier community and that guitar builders is they are huge on Facebook and they're very tight-knit. Like, some guy starts up a guitar group and the next thing you know, everybody and their brothers got it. And with what you're talking about, a lot of it, these pickup winders, you're right. They would literally grab all the designs, say, hey, let's do this, and we've got this. I discovered that this Holy Grail pickup is made like this, and here's how to do it. And for you, I guess, jumping back a second, when did you decide to jump into doing the pickups? Like, they actually, like, you're fixing them.
When did I start doing?
Like, when did you actually say, okay, I'm starting Brandonwound Pickups, your company?
Well, it wasn't till 2010 that I went legitimate.
Okay.
Like, I got the IEN number, the tax number. I did everything, by the book. It was 2010. But before that, there was about 4 or 5 years of brewing up to that, and that was while working a regular day job, like in construction. So it was very difficult. I would make like when I started to get really good at what I was doing. There's a guy named Al Gran up in Illinois, or down in Illinois, or down where you are, from where you are.
True.
That he helped me. Like, we organically found the vulcanized fiber, and what that is that's the material that Fender used for single coil pickups, and they would stamp out all the base plates and stuff for the pickup itself. So I had a tooling made at the job I was working at the time, and I paid a guy like $400 or $500, and I didn't know what to pay for tooling. Yeah. I was a dummy. And he thought he could do it, but he actually did it, and it worked. So I had this huge press, and I was cranking on this bottle, the bottle jack press, and it would eventually pop and cut vulcanized fibers. So it was very ornate, but I was trying to do my own thing. Yeah. So, because like I said, it was expensive and really difficult to find pickup parts. Nobody was distributing pickup parts, and then Mojo Music Supply came around, and there's other places I don't really want to mention because I'm still a stickler on not giving up suppliers and that kind of information, especially now.
And so, just to put it in perspective too, a lot of them, I'm not going to say some of the people that we're talking about, but there's a lot of like companies out of China that will reach out to you because the majority of the parts are made in China. And yeah, I'm not going to say any specific names, but there's people that you get your magnets from this guy, you get your parts from this guy, and there's certain ones, but no, I get what you're saying.
If you really do your homework and find out where the majority of these raw materials are made, you'll figure it out. But that's not for me to lay out. But it's just, it's just, and you can, there's ways to find out like who gets what. There was a particular winder. Let me back up. Yeah. So I got serious in 2010. And then in 2012, my dad passed. He was a very big part of my life. It was very sad. I still miss him every day. Me and my family got a windfall from that financially, and I was able to buy tooling. So now I had my own butyrate bobbins. And butyrate is an old plastic that they use for the original PAFs. And I had T-top bobbins. And what a T-top bobbin, what that is, that's the coil form, the bobbin on a pickup that you visually see in the guitar if the covers are off. And Gibson used T-top bobbins from 1965 to 1979, 80. And nobody in the aftermarket pickup industry was making these T-tops. Yeah. Nobody was. So I had that made, and that kind of put me on the map. I started getting phone calls from other winders wanting to buy my T-top bobbins. And I would say, no.
You're so nice, Jared.
No. Well, that would be, I did sell some to Crazy Parts. Regrettably, and he still has them, and I regret it every day that I sold them to him. I mean, Andy's a good businessman. Yeah. I respect the guy, but I wish I never would have sold them at all to anybody. And I didn't name him to say I don't like him. That's not true. Yeah. I just wish I never would have sold them. And I did do some horse trading with Wolf McLeod out in Washington. Very good friend of mine. He's a very different guy. I know him really well. But he's one of the guys that called me when I was doing the T-tops, and I answered the phone, and he's like, this is Wolf from Wolf Tone Pickups. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, you're the T-top guy. I'm like, yeah, I got T-top bobbins. That's right. He's like, oh, man, everybody's talking about it. And that really made me feel good. It made me feel like, people know me now because of this. I showed them to Kathy Duncan. I showed them to Seymour Duncan, and they, like Seymour remembers my name when I see him now. Yeah. And that's huge to me.
And And a lot of those guys, I
So
mean, just for people that don't know, I mean, in those communities, it can be hard to break out. Like, there's a lot of guys that have been there for years, and once you have something that gets, it's like a cult. I mean, at the end of the day,
it
those
is.
guys, when one person finds out something cool, you give it till the end of the day, and everybody knows about it.
And let me be specific. When we say breakout, and when I say breakout, I don't mean that everybody knows me. I'm just talking about the other pickup winders and the other businesses. That
Oh yeah,
like Wolf Tone, Rewind Electric, John Gundry. With
yeah, but those are the
those,
guys that
yeah, those are
they're
the big
very
guys.
well respected. Like in the
Oh, yeah.
pickup industry, it's such a niche industry. But at the end of the day, everybody knows about them. But the guys that are in the know or in that industry, at least from my experience, and I'm sure your perspective's a little different. But like you said, though, when they find out about something, they all talk like it's.
We do.
Yeah,
We do. We all talk.
I'm not even in
We're
that
like
industry.
old ladies, dude. We're old ladies that are knitting, and we talk about. I used to. I don't anymore. I can't.
Yeah.
Like I cut myself out of that information group because I can no longer talk industry specifics with anybody.
Yeah.
Because I work for Gibson, and everybody can understand why. But before that, we all just kept tabs on what's going on, what's fair, what's not fair, who's going out of business, where we get our stuff, because we all got so good at what we did as far as knowing what our product was. We knew where everybody gets their products. Like I know where everybody gets their. You can just take a pickup apart, and you see every little part screw. Like you could tell where the person gets their screws at. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just this rabbit hole knowledge that it's really hard to explain. But we could all look at a pickup and tell you where all the parts were, and then you laugh at what they charge people for these things. But hey, that's their business. That's their marketing. Whatever. That's I'm not going to crap on that. But when you know that much, my perspective is much different as a pickup person, than the consumer, and that's okay.
Yeah. So when did you jump into it full time?
Full time was like 2010, 11.
So when what was it like? Because you're working the job. Like when you started into it full time, what was that decision like?
Well, I have to thank my wife. My wife had a full-time job, and her and I moved to Columbus from Northwest Ohio, like Fremont, Sandusky area, Bellevue. We moved down to Columbus, Ohio, and I did for a sales job in the brick industry, and that was 2006, 7, and the market for construction dropped. It was really bad, so they let me go. Didn't have a choice. Pissed my dad off. I didn't, but the company did for laying me off. And anyway, I lost track of what your question was. Oh yeah, when I really went into business.
Yeah.
So that's why we moved down there for that job. But I got back into the construction industry. I was working full time. It was really hard. And then about 2011, I hurt my back. And because I was making money already with the business, I couldn't draw any disability or anything. I didn't qualify for it because I was already bringing in decent income from pickups. I had a really good rewinding. I made a lot of really good connections and customers through eBay and through my website, and so that kind of kept me afloat. And with my wife's income subsidizing what I used to make as well, because I 3 incomes, right? A little bit of pickup money, regular job money was pretty good, and then what my wife was making, it hurt us a little bit maybe for a few years, but the pickup thing just kept picking up, and pun intended, it just kept going and going and going and growing about 20% a year. So it just blew up, and I had to hire somebody by about 2014, I want to say 14, 15-ish. Yeah, Zach Oswald came. This kid, great kid, man. He was he was a golf cart wipe down guy. After the golfers used the cart, they would return the cart to the thing, and he would take it and he would just kind of clean it down and wipe down anything, the beer spills or whatever, and put the carts away. That was his job. And when he was done with work or before work, he would come work for me. And
So how'd you guys meet up?
On Facebook. It was Facebook.
No kidding.
So he used my you know who Dylan is, right? Dylan Pickups?
Yeah.
He took a rewind to Dylan, and I'm like, I see where you live. You're in Johnstown. That's 10 minutes. You can just bring your rewinds to me. No offense, Dylan. I did steal him as a customer.
I got to say, Dylan's a great guy.
He is. I like Dylan. I just saw him like months ago at the I just saw him at the guitar show.
I had lunch
Nashville Guitar Show.
No kidding. I had lunch with when I decided
he's a great marketer, man. I give him a ton of credit. He's a great marketer.
He's insane. I was debating whether I was gonna move down to Nashville out of high school or if I was gonna move down to and I had severed ties with the company that I was working for, the pickup company. And I was like, okay, I've got a bunch of luthiers that still need pickups and they want to go wherever I go. So it was an easy conversation. I ended up talking to Dylan because mutual friend out of Indianapolis. So when I was down in Indy, Dylan's like, yeah, I'm going to be up in northern Indiana on this day. I'm like, around Fort Wayne or something. And I said,
he had the mobile home.
Yeah, I think he still does. And
he does.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he settled down. I think he's got grandkids now.
Oh, that'll do it. But no, when they had the mobile home, they were traveling all over. And I said, well, let's grab lunch.
I know.
Or we grabbed lunch or dinner over at this restaurant, and it was cool. We ended up getting along, and I mean, the guy was awesome. Him and his wife are both great. I was a punk kid. I hope I didn't. I feel like I made a bad impression with the guy. You'll have to ask him, like, oh, that dude. But I was a punk kid. I was like 18, 19 years old. And
that's crazy.
But no, the guy was awesome. Sorry, sidetrack, but back into yours.
No. So Dylan, he was putting out all these videos, and he was trying to uncover all the mystical magic. He was saying, listen, this stuff isn't mystical, magical stuff. And I'm thinking, Dylan, what are you doing, man? People think that we actually use like fairy dust and all this weird stuff to make our pickup super special, and that's what sells it, and blah, blah, blah.
And he just ripped it apart on YouTube.
He just ripped it apart, man. And I'm like, well, that's his business.
And Dylan, who we're talking about, is Dylan Talks Tone on YouTube, if you guys want to look him up.
Yeah, so he uncovers everything. He just made sense of everything. Was he right about everything? I think he was right. You know, I didn't nitpick anything he did. I did watch some of his stuff. And it's entertaining too, because I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
And you talk about wire, and he said he went to that's something I never did. I never went to the actual wiring, the magnetic wire manufacturing. He would do things like that when he traveled. He'd go check out different manufacturers and maybe different places where you make parts and whatnot. And he would dig into it and then do media doing it. And he was good at it. He was very entertaining stuff. Anyway, so I kind of stole Zach from Dylan. Not really a big customer or anything. Zach would toy around with guitars and pickups like I did. And then the first time Zach came over, he brought his friend Buford. Buford was this kind of a bigger, burly guy. Now listen, I'm 6'6", like 340 pounds. I'm a giant. So Buford wasn't a giant to me, but he was a pretty big dude. And I think he brought his friend because he was maybe skeptical about, and he should have been, like going to a stranger's house. But anyway, Buford came along.
You're a little scary, Jared, I will say.
Yeah, well, Buford is too. Buford was his sidekick. But anyway, he came over, and I rewound and fixed his pickup right in front of him. The next pickup he had to have repaired, and he was impressed. And then I said, "Hey, man, come over and work for me. All you got to do is come to my house and just work for me, and I'll show you everything." And I don't even know. I lost track of how many years he came over and worked for me, but he never once complained, ever. He never I told him like, hey, let's go take a break and sit around and blah blah blah. He's like, nah, I just want to work. The dude was a worker bee. He was the dream employee of the century, man. He really was. He learned everything I taught him, and he soaked it up like a sponge. And he did a really good job. He was very particular. And a lot of the pickups that went out a few years before I sold the company were made by him. Now I would look, of course I looked it over, and I would have to jump in and help once in a while, but he got really good at it. He's really, really good at the craft. I taught him everything. Like, he ran the company until we sat down with a lawyer and made the sale where he bought the business from me when I went to Gibson, because that wasn't really forced upon me verbally, but I read the handbook when I got hired there. And you don't want a competing company when you're working for a different company.
It just doesn't make sense.
So I sold it. Yeah, I did the right thing, sold the business. Because if I was now we're to the timeline where I go to Gibson. So I'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I met up. So I was at NAMM in 2019, set up a big old, like 20-foot by, whatever, a 20-foot space at NAMM. And I was particular where I wanted that space at. I didn't want to be in this wee corner
and for
somewhere.
people that don't know, just to clarify, NAMM is it's like a wet dream for guitar players and musicians. Like, this is where you get to play everything. It's like Toyland. You just try everything that you want. And a lot of vendors and manufacturers.
The World Fair. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then on the back end of that, all the manufacturers have a day or two to really get chummy and do deals or set up their dealer agreements throughout the year.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you did this or not, but Wolf McLeod of Wolf Tone taught me a very valuable lesson about NAMM. He said, listen, you got to go to NAMM in California. I'm like, all right, I'll go. So, and I was podcasting with the guitar knobs too, all the time. So we all went, and then I met up with Wolf, and he said all the pickup manufacturing parts that you can imagine, they're all here at NAMM. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that's true. So he took me around to everybody, which he didn't have to do.
Yeah.
He told me who everybody was, who makes what, and that was totally amazing for him to teach me that. So that's why I really went to NAMM. And plus it was fun to go with the guitar knobs too. And California, even 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, your stuff was legal there. That's not legal in other states. So you'd stop at the dispensary.
You'd stop at McDonald's and get an extra burger with cheese. Yes,
whatever, if that's your thing. Really not mine, but my friends would get into that a little bit. But anyway,
yeah,
that was another cool thing about California.
So jumping back, you got the 20-foot booth,
a big booth, and I've got Mythos pedals on one side, demoing his pedals with my guitars, my single coil guitars with my pickups, and everybody was starting to know who Mythos was at that time. Yeah. So I was grabbing his customers, he was grabbing my customer type of thing, and then on the other side, I had me with all the humbucker guitars with like the Marshall, and I had a couple of those Ox, the Universal Audio. Is that what?
Oh, the Ox boxes.
The Ox. I had 2 Ox boxes because I didn't want to violate the noise levels.
Ooh, yeah. One of the big things at NAMM that's I think this is hilarious. They actually walk around with, what do they call those that measure the audio level?
Yeah,
they
DB.
walk around. Yeah, they walk around and they measure the dB. So they'll walk up to your booth, and if you're too loud, they'll give you warnings, violations, or eventually shut you down. Oh, they're dicks. They're absolute pains. Like one McCaffrey Audio, the pedal company, they ended up taking and they got a violation that they were too loud. The guitar amps were too loud. They grabbed it same day. One of the dudes ran out to Walmart, framed it up, and put it right there. So the guys were walking by and they were checking him every hour.
Yeah, yeah, I'm telling you, that was back when Nam was before COVID. Nam was at an all-time peak.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was humongous. It was shoulder to shoulder. And 2019, I decided I'm gonna go balls out on a booth, and I was right next to the Fender accessory booth because Fender had a giant. That's the year that the Jimmy Page, the Fender Telecaster Dragon Dragon Tele came out. Yeah, so that was great. So anyway, I was right there by the Fender accessory booth. Mm-hmm. And it was like an enclosed thing. So I had this wall, which you're really not allowed to do. Usually it's just a stupid curtain, but I had this nice solid wall that I was hanging stuff on. So it was a great NAMM. So let me connect that with Gibson. A gentleman by the name of Matt Kaler, who is now the vice president of brands over at Gibson. He noticed me and he said, "Hey, I remember you. I bought Strat pickups from you a long time ago when I had my store out in California." And I said I couldn't even tell they were real or vintage, or you couldn't tell because my niche, and I didn't really go into my niche at Brandonwound. My niche was to make stuff look period correct, mm-hmm. Like, and mostly for people that did repairs on vintage instruments and couldn't afford the $700 1954 Strat pickup. Mm-hmm. I would make it and it would look original. So I did that. People want to know that it looks right under the hood. Yeah, some people do, and then there's other people that don't care.
People get weird about it, especially because it's a $10,000 to $50,000 guitar somewhere in there.
It is,
and to buy a new pickup or to try to source one, a lot of the stuff, the manufacturing, the people don't know. You know this, but the manufacturing back then was not a standard practice. You had old ladies winding pickups because the reason they had women is because they were better at it than men and more consistent. But still, you've got machines that aren't as accurate. And
let's back up.
Yeah,
they had more dexterity in their fingers. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much why. I mean, and they had patience to sit there all day. Yeah. I don't want to get into.
No, I
don't.
I get it.
But it's true. But listen. Mm-hmm. I mean, the truth is, yes.
Yeah.
It was mostly women on the winders and doing that kind of thing. And if you look at the old Fender tours, the shop tours, yeah, there's a mix of men and women, but a lot of the women were doing the because they needed to work too. At the end of the day,
it caused an inconsistency in the pickups because they were.
Well, that was the machinery.
Oh, it was the machinery and the human error because you're not. It's not like today where you can have a robot wind something like that. Back then, you've got the machinery that's not necessarily accurate, but then you've also got a person that's the majority of that process. And
sometimes, Edna had to go to the doctors, so mm-hmm. Joanne took her spot and she may have done something a little different, or Bill took over or something. So, you'll have that, mm-hmm. And the inconsistencies. And today we still have 3 very skilled women that run our winders at Gibson, by the way. I just wanted to
That's awesome.
Say that, but they are very skilled, very good at what they do. Anyway, back to NAMM.
Yeah.
That was my niche. So that's what I was known for. So he was like, "Oh my gosh, these pickups." And then he said, "Hey, come down and I want to show you Gibson." And I just lit right up because of that. I had no idea. And then I actually got another call from him a few months later, and we met, and he took me around, and we had a conversation, and I was blown away. And I had a decision to make, and it was a few years until we made the move. I think if you can remember in that era, there was some changes at Gibson. So that had something to do with me being hired there, but excuse me, but it was very methodical for me to decide what to do, because here I built this company from nothing, from a $35 spool of wire I bought from Stuart McDonald,
Yep.
right? And doing rewinds and just building off of that. To now I have this company that I have to pay huge amounts of taxes to,
Yeah.
and I don't miss that. And it meant it was special to me because it had my last name on the name, and it still does today. As
Yeah.
Zach, so I talked to Zach, and he was reluctant at first because he was just used to me instructing him, and I did all of the buying and the strategy kind of stuff with the business, and I didn't have a huge marketing game at all. I just did so much OEM that I didn't feel I had to go balls out with direct to consumer marketing. I
Yeah.
really didn't, and I barely knew what direct to consumer meant back then.
Oh, and I mean, let's be honest.
I know what
The
it is now,
OEM
but
work was that's where the money is, because I mean, those guys are buying multiple products throughout the year, as opposed to, I think I'm going to do
the
this.
numbers are bigger.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, so there's key accounts that I had, and very, very good relationships too, that I knew I would have to leave behind and pass on to Zach and have him maintain. So it was very methodical, very thought out, and it came down to one thing. The one thing was, if I didn't do it, I would kick myself in the ass for the rest of my life not doing it, because then I never would have known what it would be like to work at Gibson and to have that opportunity, because it's what I'm doing at Gibson is similar to what I did on my own, but now I'm managing. My title is pickup product manager, so I manage the pickups. I manage the product, so it's a huge responsibility. But I don't have people.
Can we dive into that for a second on what exactly you do? Because I think I don't think people fully understand the gravity of the decision, because I mean, at the time, and I'll say it because I'm not sure if you're able to or not, but Gibson was filing for bankruptcy a little while back because of some terrible business decisions that they made. I'll say that in my opinion, because I mean, there were certain brands that I saw on the brink. But then after a certain point, they brought in an amazing CEO. He turned the company around. Now they've got an amazing CEO. They're doing great. I love Gibson. But one of the things is your responsibilities there. Like, it's not just a product manager sounds lame compared to what you actually do. Like, this is a huge, cool job. This is a job of a lifetime.
Yeah, I don't have a master luthier title, but I am the last guy that the pickups go through. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And not at a manufacturing standpoint, but as an existing standpoint. So I took over the product for pickups, basically.
You control what
You
pickups going. You have the majority of control of the
I
pickups,
don't,
right?
So I don't know. I don't want to say that.
Okay.
If I'm asked to develop a new pickup, I develop that new pickup. And let me give you an example. The the greenie buckers.
Yep.
So I did that was me. They asked me to do the greenie bucker pickup, and we matched. The goal was to match the sound of the original greenie bucker pickups. Not, there's a lot of lore that goes into how that sound is being made from the pickup, and I don't want to get into the rabbit hole stuff, but my instructions were to make them sound like the original pickups, and that's what I did. I had the help of Matt Kaler and my boss Jason Davidson. Those two guys are amazing people. They're director of, Jason Davis is director of product development, and Matt Kaler is now vice president of VP of brand. So that's huge. But he was when I got hired, he was the senior director of product development. But so that's the kind of thing that I do there. And then the collectors, the collector series, the $1,000 sets.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a long time on that project. And there may be some misconception with those. Some people think that the inner parts of those are just the same old parts that we use off the production floor, and that's just not true. I actually did a lot of research, a lot of digging, and we changed out a lot of the inner parts to match the original. Mm-hmm. So it's a very good, it stands up with all the best clones out there. And we just put it in a really cool ass case, you know, and it works. It's really cool. Some people make fun of the cases online. They make fun of the price. But overall, people are buying them. They love them. They know what they are. And somebody who's going to pay that much for a set of pickups, they know what they are. They know what the goal is. They know what they are. There's a specific consumer for that. And that's why we limit those down. Mm-hmm. We're not going to make the same one over and over again, and it's not going to be a core product. It's going to be, no, this is limited, whatever. So that's the whole deal with that.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
That's the kind of thing.
Because it's a whole lot different from Brandonwound. You literally built a set of pickups that's been sold at Guitar Center, Sweetwater, and all the top places in the world.
Yeah, and it's
awesome.
Gibson. It's Gibson branded though. I mean,
I know.
Yeah. I'm behind developing the product, but at the end of the day, the stuff that comes out of Gibson are made by Americans in Nashville, Tennessee, and there's a whole manufacturing group, the team on the floor that we all the product development, we all rely on them. And all of our everybody that works at Gibson to create what we have designed. So I love going onto the floor and going through all the process with everybody and getting them to learn how to build it and all that kind of thing. And they deserve all the credit in the world for their skill and their patience learning this stuff, because when I came on, a lot of new different things, appeared on their workbench, and that's not easy to do when you've been building the same thing for 20, 30 years.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of, it's a lot of work. I love doing it. They're a really, really good company. It's very diverse there. They're really good people. It's a really good team. The leadership's great. I love working there.
No,
it's a dream job. It really is. It's a dream job, and they work hard. And when you know the people building stuff, and when you look at it out in the field, you look at it differently than just a normal consumer.
Oh, I could see that. So. And the other thing too, I got to give kudos to is I've yet to meet a bad person from Gibson. I mean, down to the Gibson garage, the showroom in Nashville, all the way up to when I met the reps when they came in. The Gibson guys were always top notch. There were other companies that would come in and the guys were hit or miss. But Gibson, the guys came in and you always knew they were going to be cool. Like, for instance, I ran into you and I'm like, okay, you're pretty cool, because rumor ran around that you were related to somebody there. So then that word got around. But then I remember sitting down at lunch and I was hanging out with a couple guys and you were trying to find a spot to sit and you went over and joined us, and we ended up just BSing for half an hour or something like that till you had to run back upstairs. Like, a lot of people would be like, no, we have to, like, you were like, let's do it, man. And we're just talking trash for 30 minutes before you got to run back. I thought that was awesome.
It was a lot of fun. I was like the new guy at school. I didn't know who to sit with. And you were like, Jared, come over here and sit, man. That meant a lot to me. It really did. And it was a good time. I forgot exactly what we talked about, but I'm sure it was funny. But
it's not coming up on the podcast, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
But no,
I'm sure it was very professional.
It was totally professional. Like you were sitting there drinking
Yeah.
caviar and champagne.
That's
but
right.
I guess jumping back, so what was the process? Because for people that don't know, Gibson's headquarters is in Nashville, Tennessee. You're up in Ohio, or you were up in Ohio. What was the process of selling the business and then moving a couple states away down to Nashville?
It took longer than I thought it did, but I don't I really don't know what's appropriate to talk about to try to explain this, so I'll just kind of keep it surface level.
Yeah,
Because I want to respect Zach in this because he's just a party in this. But
I guess let me rephrase it. A lot of people have never sold a business before and they don't understand the process.
Okay. So here's what we did. I looked into it. I wasn't just going to spit out some big giant number because I care about Zach. Mm-hmm. He's like a kid to me.
Yeah.
He's not my son, but I very much care about him, and I wanted everything to be by the book and be fair and legal. So I went to a few different financial companies and got their advice on how to value my business. Mm-hmm. And they told me that, and I took Zach with me. So we were both learning at the same time. This is how you do it. So that's what we did. We agreed on a number, and then we both went and saw a lawyer who's actually in the music business. He's got a
no kidding.
Yeah, he's got a bass magazine. His name is excuse me. His name is Tom Ballas. He's a great fella. And he goes to NAMM too. But anyway, he's a lawyer. So we went there and he drew up a schedule of payments, and I actually financed the loan for Zach because
Good for you.
Well, I know what the Brandonwound makes per month. I know what he can afford, what would make sense in his situation. Mm-hmm. So that was all worked out, and it's worked out very well. And I had the lawyer make sure that I was separated from the business to where I had no. Of course, I have interest that it's successful, so I get paid for it. But it's not going to impede my working at Gibson and getting in the way of being successful there.
Of course.
Because when I made that decision to go with them, I knew I was totally leaving Brandonwound behind, separating myself from that, and dedicating everything to Gibson. And that's what I did. And was it a big risk? In retrospect, it maybe it didn't seem like it was because of how it turned out, but at the time it was a huge risk because I didn't know. I didn't know what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
It's very internal there. They're very good at keeping things within the company. So I didn't know how. I had to learn and as I went along, and my boss, who I have now, has been absolutely amazing and taught me the ropes at Gibson. So like I said, it really turned out to be a dream. It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
It's a ton of work. But sometimes I'm answering questions at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever. Sometimes people ask me stuff and I'm used to that because when it was all Brandonwound, I would go down at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, and then not come up until 9, 10, 11, 12 at night.
So how did you adjust to, because I mean, you go from working for other people to owning your own business back to working for someone, because I think this is a dream job, what you have, like you said. But for a lot of people, it seems like it seems like a total mind shift.
It is. It's the opposite of what people generally want to do because they're stuck working for an employer, an employer for their whole lives. And they don't know what it's like to own a business. So I've been on both sides of the fence. So I worked for companies. I was a professional brick mason for a few years. I got my card in the union. that was a profession. I made okay money, and but I was relying on them, and I didn't see myself going any further in that, and I wanted to work on pickups, so I did my own business, and I built it up very slowly, and it created freedom. Mm-hmm. However, you think you have this, just because you're in charge of your own freedom, and you're in charge of when you can go on vacation, you're in charge on how much time you're not there running your own business.
Yeah.
That side of it is, you don't know until you're in it. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. I hated being a week away from work. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. It was scary at first when I first hired Zach, but when he got really good at things, then I could go on a 2-week trip. I think the most time I took off work was for a 2-week Hawaii trip in 2017. I remember when it was. I remember when it was because it was the only time I was ever gone that long. But I didn't want to be away from it. I was in it, man. I loved my business. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, the only time I hated dealing with business was tax time. So
of course
I had to get all my book information to a fellow that organized it and prepared it for the CPA feller, and then the CPA told me how much I owed, and it was always a ton of money, and I hated it.
Oh yeah,
that's the only thing I hated about it.
Likes to get you, but it's funny. I got to bring up. I remember I saw a video or a meme the other day or something, and it said imagine quitting your 40-hour-a-week job just to work for yourself 90 hours a week.
Yeah, it's true.
It goes.
It's very true, because if you don't eat, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to say you own a business, you can say that and get a website, get all the mm-hmm. things that you can say you're a business owner, but it's just going to be a pile of shit if you don't put any money and actual work into it. Yeah. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, or else it's not going to work. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I said I had teachers that just did not believe in me, and that was so dejecting. I still remember how I felt that day when Mrs. Moran told me that the world was going to chew me up and spit me out. And just lazy Jared, and you can do better than this, but you don't. You're not going to survive. You're just blah blah blah. And I remember all that, and that drove me. Not that particular thing, but just my whole bringing up of people doubting me. And when you're really passionate about a craft like winding pickups, mm-hmm. as really weird as it is to most people that are alive, then you're going to be successful. You'll find a way. And I was lucky. I feel like I was lucky enough to have built that company during the time period I did, before all the Facebook groups gave away all the information that we spent years to find out. Just mm-hmm. all of a sudden, it's common knowledge now between anybody. It was just at the touch of these smartphones and this Facebook. It ruined everything, Oh, yeah. Not really, but I was, like I said, I was lucky enough to build it up when I did, because I was known to be one of the companies before all that, before all the the game genies, the cheat codes. So that really helped me out too. But now working at Gibson,
what was it like in your first first working there? Because you moved from Ohio down to Nashville.
It was a culture shock, because I had never worked in a corporate setting before like that. Mm-hmm. However, it wasn't old school corporate where you had to wear khakis and a golf shirt or a button up. Mm-hmm. That was over. The clothing was rock and roll. That's basically what the handbook said. You're supposed to feel comfortable, wear nice pants, wear nice or like nice jeans, nice shoe. You know, don't
Yeah.
go to work looking like a scumbag, but you know, take some pride in how you look, type of deal.
Yeah.
Be an adult, you know, type of deal. Like a lot of times, I would work in a pair of gym shorts and a t-shirt when I was winding pickups because I was in a dingy basement. You know, doing that for a long time. So
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved getting up early in the morning, taking a shower, putting on normal, nice clothes, and then going to Gibson and learning about the operation and what I was getting into. My boss, he basically answered every single question I had and then some. He's one of the most knowledgeable and helpful people. He had been there for a long time. He's very special to me because of the attention to detail that he took in training me how to work there. Now when I first got there, I had all this pickup knowledge in my brain, right?
Yeah.
But when you're at a place, you're expected to pick up how the operations are really quickly, and I eventually picked up on everything.
So
And,
how
still
was that
learn-
switch for you? Because it's, I mean,
what
what people don't
easiest...
understand is, I mean, what people don't understand is when it comes to that, it's definitely an art. Like if you're going to have somebody paint a mural a certain way, you want it painted that way. With pickups, at least from my perspective, you're in Brandonwound doing this way, and Gibson they've been doing a certain way for the last 70, 80 years.
Yeah, and
How did you cope with that, or how did you get into that?
I think I'm getting to what you're asking, and it took a while. It took a while to realize that not every single pickup that comes out of there is going to be what I would have done. Mm-hmm. Because to be honest, the pickups they make there, every single pickup they make in that pickup shop is actually really good quality. I was surprised. I didn't know what to expect, and when I got there, I learned about the parts. I learned about what they use. Top notch. I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, what do you want me to change? You know, but so I didn't go in there to change any. I didn't go in there to wreck anything. We actually, what we did was my boss and I worked on relaunching the pickup line, and we had three main categories that we set up. You have your modern, and you have your not your traditional, but your original, and you have your historic. Sorry, I had a brain fart. It's been a long day.
No, you're
Modern, a modern series, an original series, and a historic. And it was the first time when I got there we put custom buckers on the aftermarket. Because before that, you could only get custom buckers on Reverb or eBay.
Yeah.
And they went for a lot of money. So that we put custom buckers on aftermarket, and they're one of our best sellers right now. They're a really great pickup. So I didn't go in there and change a lot of things. We just rearranged a lot of things, and what you see on the website now does pretty well. There's been a lot of new pickups to choose from since we relaunched. So about a few times a year, you'll see a new product come out, and there's a lot more to choose from than there was before. And we've kind of changed operations too a little bit to where it was easier to get the products out, because I mean, selling guitars is the bread and butter. Yep. That's the big thing. Pickups, you know, you have a company that not only does aftermarket pickups, but the main thing is that they manufacture pickups for their own guitars. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge deal. So you've got a pickup shop that does a lot of different business units. So it's pretty complex. It takes a lot to run all that. So we've got we've got the right leadership in there and they do a great job. But so yeah, it took me a while to understand that I wasn't going to have my hand into everything.
Yeah.
And I don't. What I have my hand in is what they ask me to do. That's what they don't have now.
Which is still pretty incredible because, I mean, some of the stuff that you've listed off to me that you've worked on, it's like, I remember those.
Yeah,
I sold a pair of those. Like, I've played a pair of those. And I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah, it's to me, it's a very prestigious, and I'm very lucky, very grateful to have my job position there.
It's badass, brother. I mean, you're a freaking badass at the end of the day in my mind.
Thanks. In my mind, I'm very proud and very happy where I'm at. But I'm not in some big executive, like I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But what I do is what I'm really good at, and that's what I want to do for them until I retire. So that's where I'm at with Gibson.
That's awesome. So
I love it. Love it.
I guess I got to think about a word this. I mean, when you're looking at all this stuff, I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to ask it so it's on the podcast. Do you regret any of this, or do you love it? Like, do you regret any of?
No, nothing.
Okay.
I regret nothing. No, everything was coming down here and joining the Gibson team was absolutely the right thing. Mm-hmm. It changed our lives. And this is nothing to do with financial either.
Yeah.
It changed. We have a new house. We live in a new community. We met new people that are very special to us now. I have a lot of great friends, and there's a lot of good, genuine people that work at Gibson that I love and will be upset when they retire or move on or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like, I feel like I'm becoming part of the ship there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in, what's that movie? The Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh.
Where the dude's dad is stuck on the Dutchman.
Oh yeah. Will Turner's dad.
Yeah, and he just becomes part of the ship, and men are becoming the walls of the ship. And stuff. But yeah, I feel like I'm melting in and becoming part of the buildings over there. It's great. I like being there.
20 years from now, you'll be a part of history, man.
I don't look at it that way, but thanks for saying that, but I don't look at it that way. My goal in being there is just to put out the best product that Gibson can possibly.
I guess I look at it. I guess I wouldn't.
I'll never think of myself as like I don't know.
I get it, but I gotta say, I mean, I'm looking at this from an outside perspective as somebody who I still consult and work and market for a couple businesses in the music industry, and I know based on the track records of products and based on where products go, I just think I'm incredibly grateful to know you because it's one of those things that down the line it's just how it goes in the industry because the music industry is very passion driven everywhere. Even though it's a tenth of the size of the golf industry, it's a smaller industry in comparison, but it's something where there's little things that have massive impacts down the line and you never know. You never, ever, ever know until it just hits and something happens. And it's cool.
I can be known for a dud, like,
exactly.
Who knows? Jared, that was Jared Brandon that designed that pickup. That thing was awful.
Man, I remember that dude. Yikes.
Yeah, so you never know. That's the other side of it. It's like, what if that could happen too? And that's the dangerous part of it. So really, I'm like the Homer Simpson that crawls into the wall of green and disappears when it comes to recognition. I just want to be known as somebody that worked at Gibson that's a part of the team. I have an integral part, sure, but
yeah.
I remember daydreaming when I was running my business in the early days about working for Gibson.
Really?
I did. I daydreamed about it. I'm like, if I went to Gibson, I would do this. I would do that. I would, change this. And because I was repairing Gibson pickups.
Yeah.
And the ironic part about that is, if you buy a guitar from Gibson and something happens to the pickups, they're guaranteed forever, as long as you're the original owner.
I didn't even know
they'll
that.
just send you a new. Yeah, they do. They don't advertise it because they don't want to ever. People take advantage of it. But yeah, you could find out and boom, you'll know. But if you really dig into it, but yeah, I used to daydream about it. I'm like, I would do this, I would do that. But really, when I got in there and I learned how they're making the product, and what the product is, I'm like, I'm definitely not going to change it. And that's not what they asked me to do.
Yeah.
They're asking me to do things like the collectors and clone, not necessarily clone in a devious way, but just recreate and get as close as possible what people are hungry for. So that's why I'm there, and I feel like I belong there in that aspect. Now there's some really other there's some great luthiers that'll know more, that will forget more than I'll know about what they know about guitars. People like Keith Medley. Many people may not know who he is, but he's a rock star at Gibson. He's one of the most knowledgeable people there. And Jim Nicola has been in the industry for a long time too. He's noted for some really amazing things, and he'll design pickups for USA guitars too.
Okay.
So so he usually does the USA stuff, and he's done some really great pickup work since he's been there. But he's a master luthier, and he doesn't have time to dig into the pickups as much. He's an everything guy. Like so he's a very valuable person there. So I'm one out of many people that work there, and all of us together create Gibson, like Voltron. I don't know if you know what Voltron is.
Yeah, I remember.
Have you ever heard of Voltron?
I do.
Yeah.
No, I gotta say, one of the biggest things, separate from guitars and everything else, I think one of the biggest things I have a mad amount of respect for you on is, even in our first conversation when we were talking, first in-person conversation between Brandonwound and Gibson and things, there's a lot of people that never actually take the leap to do something that they love. Because, Gibson is one of those companies, it's like working for Disney or something. It's one of the companies to work for if you're a guitar player, if you're a musician. Like, that is something you aspire to. And for you, I look at a lot of people, they get an opportunity and they don't ever take it. They never do anything with it. And you ended up, you said, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to sell my business. I'm going to move a couple states away to a place that I don't go very often.
Twice before I moved.
Exactly. You're a local at that point. But it's you end up, you took a job not knowing what was going to happen, and I think that's just incredible, because I talk a lot about entrepreneurship and starting your own business, but with what you're doing, it's a job, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. It doesn't matter if it's working for someone else or owning your own business, but working for Gibson or Fender in a position that high up, it's not even that high up. It's just doing something that you enjoy doing with a company that you've looked up to since you were little.
Yeah, I would say that it's not a high up position. It's a creative position, and a creative position at one of those companies is where it's at for me. That's where I belong. I belong in that, and I'm absolutely just over the moon about being the guy in that position. It's amazing. They treat me very well. I work hard, no matter where I'm at. I'm not at one place all day. That would drive me nuts if I was at one place all day. So I'm down at the factories. I'm everywhere, and wherever the job takes me, and it's very priority driven too. So it's a lot of fun. That's all I want to do is do my best there until I retire. And I don't want to retire, to be honest, but eventually I'm going to have to. But when I do, I want it to be there. And if it doesn't happen, if something happens and I'm not there forever, that's okay too. You know, things change, and I can adapt if that happens. So, yeah, I mean, I'll just build another business.
Exactly. So
no, I don't know if I'd do that. But.
I guess let me ask you, what would you tell people that are on the fence about taking a big
leap like that?
Yeah, a leap of faith.
I think their own
and like I guess let me rephrase it
what
too.
They have going
if
on.
you had to take and do it over, or if you had to go tell yourself something, and you or somebody that was in the similar shoes that you were in, what would you say?
Yeah, if you don't know and it feels right, just maybe do it. It's up to you. You know, I don't want to make somebody make the wrong decision and be responsible for that, but you have to feel it in your heart, and whatever you feel like jumping off and changing, whatever you do, make sure you know that's what you want to do and you have passion for it. If you do it for any other reason than passion and love and for creativity and for all those reasons, and if it's just for money, you're not going to be happy. Money solves issues, that's true. But there's still millionaires that take their own lives because they're not happy. I didn't do this for money. They treat me good. That's true. But and it's fair. But I did this just for the love and for the opportunity to have the creativity that I have with this company, and to be involved in it. Just to be on the team is a huge privilege. That's why I do it. So if you're somebody stuck in the same job every day and you have an opportunity, just make sure you have love and passion for what that is. And it's something that you're going to want to do. Like, here's an example, what I'm talking about. I was already doing what I love to do. I had my own business, right? Mm-hmm. There was a lot of responsibility at that time for me to run my own thing, because I had to be into everything. I had to be responsible for everything. And now I'm responsible for many other things, but not the same. It's all in the pickup categories and not just running the whole thing. So it is much different, and I feel like there's less stress there, but in that aspect. But if you have an opportunity to go from something that you feel stuck in, or you have just take it. If you have the passion and it's going to make you happy, do it then, because you're going to do a good job. You're going to do a really good job if you really like what you're doing and you're passionate about it. Unfortunately, many people today, they just go to work because they have to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I look forward to Monday on the weekends. Then it made me make people sick to hear it, but it's actually true. I love going to work there. I love going to work because I like doing it. I want to get into more. I look forward to getting. There's projects that I've done that don't necessarily see the end, or a launch or something, and things change, and that's okay too. Things shift and change according to what the market's doing. That's just good business. Yeah. If you can do that. So there's always that challenge, and that's everything that we all do. So just having a good attitude, being passionate of what you. Really having passion in what you're doing makes all the difference in the world. It changes your whole life. Yeah. It physically too, because if you hate working at Heinz ketchup factory, if you hate working there, then you don't want to go there, and it's stressful because you have to go. All you do is think about it. You go there and you do the bare minimum to get paid, and then you're just a drone.
Yeah.
That sucks. But man, don't get a job unless you like doing it, and that's harder said than done. But I got really lucky.
Yeah, but
I got so lucky. I ended up where I was. I have no college.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think, like you said, if you like what you're doing, I mean, I know people that do the craziest jobs, and I'm like, really? You enjoy doing that? But at the end of the day, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not about going to get a college degree, because I can tell you, and I'd love to throw some people under the bus, but unfortunately, I'm not that mean. But I look at how many kids. I'm not going to call myself a kid, but I look at how many people at my age are getting out of college with a 4 or 6-year degree, doing something completely different than what they went to college for. And not just because the job market's bad or anything else, but because they found they didn't like it and they felt like it was too late to change. A lot of them. And I think at the end of the day, life's too short to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah. You're happier with what you do because you do what you do 5 days, sometimes 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it. Unless you were born into millions of dollars and you're Billy Madison, you don't have to do anything. But look at what is it, Nudie Magazine Day?
Oh yeah.
Or swim in the pool all day.
Go back to school and sleep with the teacher.
Yeah, there you go. The whole movie. Go out and see Billy Madison. It's great.
It's a good movie. It's an Adam Sandler movie. In case you guys are wondering what the references are.
Yeah, don't show it to your kids.
Yes.
But anyway, one thing an example I want to tell you, going back to the military, is, in Vietnam, we lost a lot of people at war there, and there's a lot of controversy whether we should have been there or not. And that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
This is about, lieutenants, officers would go to officer school and they would train a little bit, and then they would be sent to Vietnam and expect to take over a platoon of soldiers that had been there for 5, 6, 7, 8 months, and they know Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And they have to take orders from somebody who just got there that's brand new and that doesn't know what's going on. So to be humble, to be humble is to go to those privates, the even maybe some of the younger sergeants, and ask for help, and instead of going to college and then going somewhere and acting like hey, this isn't this, acting like what's going on. Mm-hmm. In my experience is golden in today's working society. In my opinion, experience is far better than going to school in some situations. Yeah. Like in the music industry, experience is better in my opinion. Now, if you're an engineer, of course you go to college, and there's engineers at Gibson that blow my mind. Yeah. And that are very valuable to us. But I'm just saying, in my opinion, experience far exceeds. And another thing that I found helps too in just going to work every day is just being nice. Just being nice, man. There was a garbage guy that picked my garbage up when I was running my business. I was home all day, right? Yeah. So I'd see the garbage guy every week, and in the summer it was blistering hot, so I would go out there and give the guy a water. And then we talk about sports for the very little time that he's there dumping the garbage in the thing. Yeah. And we became, we didn't become like friends that hung out all the time, but we had that little tiny time to talk about the Buckeyes, the football team, or the baseball team or whatever. And just little kindness, acts of kindness like that lead to a little period that you look forward to every day. Talking with somebody. I mean, just being kind opens up many opportunities, in my opinion.
That's
so
interesting.
That's it is. That's
like
kind
that,
of a lost art.
You ain't a kid. And I remember I remember I always used to get along with the janitors, and when I was in whatever school I went to, whatever place I went to, every job I had, like the janitors at Sweetwater and security, I'd BS with them. When I was in high school, I remember I used to talk to this janitor. His name was Jesus, right? And Jesus was just, he would talk like this. Just the nicest guy in the world, like salt to the earth through and through. And I remember everybody most people wouldn't give him the light of day. And I went back there, and at the time, I was clean shaven. Like, I mean, I didn't have a beard in high school. Like, I had a baby face, so I looked young. Throw the beard on, get another extra 10 years, Not quite gray hairs like my hero there, Mr. Jared Brandon. But it was mind blowing. I went back there for some reason because I was consulting on some AV project for a classroom they were putting together. And I was walking down the hallway, and I ran into Jesus, and Jesus goes, "Tony." I said, "Yeah." I said, "What's up, brother?" And he's like, "I remember you." He's like, "You good kid." He's like, "You good man now." I said, "Thanks, Jesus." He's like, "You married? You got children yet?" I said, "Not quite." But like you said, I mean, who knows what'll happen? And it's not even about getting something in return. It's about, I never thought about it like you said. Looking forward to a moment in the day that, you know what, you get to go talk to the security guard at your job, you get to talk to the garbage man in the morning, you get to talk to the coffee lady, and it's just something, it's a boost of joy. It's something when you wake up in the morning and you're like, this isn't working.
It's infectious, and you carry it with you. So you talk to the garbage guy, and now it's time to go to work, and you got a smile on your face because you had a nice conversation with somebody. And where I learned this, of course, was like the way I was brought up and everything, and I credit my parents, but also a movie called Casino. And you'll like where I go with this. So if you watch the beginning of Casino, you watch the beginning of the Casino, like the girl at the casino that ends up marrying the main dude. It's been a long time since I saw it, so I'm sorry I forgot her name, but Sharon Stone, I believe, was the actor.
Yep.
And I could be wrong on that, but I think it's Sharon Stone. What she did was she took care of everybody. And I'm talking the valet people. She took care of the pit bosses. She took care of everybody. She knew who to be kind to. And instead of like giving everybody money in my life walk, I just use kindness instead because it's more valuable. And so just being kind to everybody, having that opportunity, and going out of your way to hold the door open or say that kind of stuff really helps. It really helps you during the day, and that's just a general behavioral skill, but it's really important.
And you don't know who you're going to impact. Like, you don't know what's going on in other people's lives. Like, I remember, I mean, I could bring up many scenarios, but I'm sure you've had the same. But you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you just have a conversation with somebody and treat them good, and they may have just found out that they were diagnosed with cancer. Their kid had a car accident. Who knows? They might have just gotten fired from their job. Whatever happened, and you just became the best part of their super crappy day.
Yeah.
And it's just a conversation about the Packers or something like that, and how the Buckeyes are a terrible football team. Like, things like that.
You mean national championships? Champions? Yeah.
I think
they are. They're national champions this year. But they did lose to Michigan. I got to say that, because that's a huge that's the biggest game of the year. It's bigger than the national championship. It is. It's bigger than everything. And as a Buckeye fan, I'm not ashamed to say it.
I'm not a sports
we haven't
fan,
beat them,
but I got it. The number of time people talked about those, like all those teams,
Michigan,
around
Ohio
the Midwest.
State.
Oh yeah, like those,
Notre
like
Dame,
guys would get intense around that stuff.
Oh, it's a lifestyle. I'm a huge Buckeye fan. Grew up in a Michigan house. I did.
Really?
My dad born and raised in Michigan fan. My brother's Michigan fans because Dad was. I never really was into sports at all until I met my current wife, and her mom are huge, like diehard Cleveland sports fans, and they're Buckeye sports fans. Yeah, my wife went to
devotion.
It's not easy to do. Cavs have a kick-ass team right now. The basketball team. They just swept the Heat in the playoffs. But anyway, the Guardians, they used to be called the Indians, the Buckeyes, the Browns. It's hard to be a Browns fan, man.
Oh,
really is.
Yeah.
It's hard to be a Browns fan.
It's like walking into Thanksgiving with a different political affiliation.
Yeah. It's like, can I really be a fan? And you ask that to your dad, and he's like, if you're strong enough, you can be a Browns fan. But yeah, anyway.
No.
So talking about, my dad told me a long time ago, he said, read the paper and that's when the paper was the paper, before the internet.
Yeah.
He said if you want to do what I do, one of the things that I do every day is I read the sports section in the paper. That way I have something to talk about. And I read about wherever I'm at. He was a regional sales manager for Belden Brick Company out of Canton, Ohio. And Belden sells brick even down here in Tennessee. They have they're a really big player in the construction industry. Yeah. So he had a huge region. So he would get a hotel, stay overnight because he had a long drive or whatever, and then he would read the paper for that local paper, and he would talk about he knew what he was talking about when he was talking about the sports, and that was huge. It's a skill. It's a skill set to just know what gets brought up and to know your client, to know who their kids are. That's just sales 101, right? But it's huge to know what's going on in sports because that's usually what people look forward to after work.
Big time. And those sales conversations.
American pastime.
Oh yeah, those sales conversations aren't ones where you're talking, oh yeah, let's talk about product or this or that. There's golf, there's sports, there's kids. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I'm starting to CRM is because I couldn't live without it when I was managing how many clients I had to keep track of and everything else. And I look at how many businesses, local and small businesses, they just don't keep track of that stuff. And it's like, no, what you got to keep track of is how many kids do they have? Which kid was in sports? Did the kid win his soccer game that he told you about 2 weeks ago? Those are the things right there that actually secure the deals and close sales for you. And I think that's super smart. What your dad did was read the sports section. It's genius.
It's such a simple thing. It takes 5 minutes out of your day. Read the sports section. He was on and this might be interesting, but he sold brick to Notre Dame for the stadium. He sold brick to Ohio State for several buildings. He was involved in those huge deals.
Oh wow!
Like he would go with. So he was assigned brick distributors and distributors of the product, and he would go help. He would oversee and help sell his product with those distributors to those huge meetings with the board of trustees or executives that made those big decisions. So he would be a part of that. And Ohio State and Indiana, Notre Dame, Michigan, and all these huge colleges and all the grocery stores like Kroger and Giant Eagle and all all those
are
retail
big projects.
stores. So he would be involved in that. But that was the cool part of his job. Other than that, if somebody says brick, you just think of a big red rectangle. But yeah. But there's a lot more to it than that. That's a rabbit hole that I never want to go down. But,
that's fair.
Yeah, so there was a guy that was a Dallas pro football player, played for Dallas, and now he's the CEO. I think he's the CEO now at Belden Brick. It's not Bob Belden, but his last name's Belden. I forgot his first name. I'm sorry, I forgot. But anyway,
how dare you, Jared?
That was interesting. Whatever. You can't remember everything.
No,
But yeah, I made a big leap, and it's not really heard of when you have somebody that has. I had all that freedom, and from an outsider's perspective, it wasn't the freedom that they think it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It was huge. It was my life. It consumed me because I let it. Like I said before, really quickly, and I didn't talk about I didn't go into it was I would go down at 7, 8, 9, and then not come up until 10, 11, 12 at night. And that's true sometimes. My wife would say, Jared, dinner. And I'd say, oh, I'll be up in a minute.
Oh, no.
And I'd forget to go up and eat. Or I'd go up hours later, and she's like, it's cold. You got to put it in the microwave. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I just, attention deficit sort of Jared, dang it, whatever. And I learned to deal with that now. So that's a lot easier to deal with. But
it's like you said, it's cool having to be pulled away from your work as opposed to having to run away from it.
Let me tell you a story about Zach.
Yeah.
And this is one I knew. I knew for sure he was my guy. Zach had a friend from New York come down, and that he was really good Facebook friends with, and he actually turned out to be a pretty cool guy. And I'm still friends with him. Not close friends, but anyway, he was down, and I'm like, hey, let's all go to the comedy club. And Zach was at my house working, and we were all down in the basement. We were working, and I even put my friend to work. And Zach's like, nah, I just want to stay here and work. I'm like, what? I'm paying for everything. Let's go to the comedy. It's such and such there. He's really funny. You got to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I want to stay here and work. I just want to work. He didn't want to go he just wanted to work. And it was late. It was like 7, 8, 9 o'clock. I'm like, come on, dude.
And he's just in the zone.
I'm in the zone. I just want to work. I'm like, okay.
Huh.
Okay, that's fine. So me and our mutual friend, we went and saw the comedy show. I saw Bill Burr. You don't like Bill Burr?
I used to. I used to be a big fan.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's still funny. He's not as funny as he used to be because I think he backed off what he used to do. And
he used to call everybody out, and that was what was cool about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's chilled out because he's got kids.
Yeah.
I think that can.
Have you? Sidetrack. Have you heard his podcast?
Yeah, he's had that podcast forever. I remember when he was on Chappelle's show.
Oh,
but
wow.
you don't really notice him because he was just in the background guy.
Yeah.
But he was funny. He was good. But we saw him at my. I got married in 2007, and we saw him at my bachelor party at the Funny Bone in Columbus. There was maybe 70, 80 people there. It was about it. Not even that much. He wasn't that popular at all. And after the show, he was just kind of standing in the hallway, and I just went up and talked to him and shook his hand and told him it was a great, funny show. It was. He killed.
Yeah.
Our guts were hurting, man. And like now, he's a huge star. He's been on all these TV, movies, and series, and he sells out arenas, and he's huge now. But I saw him in Columbus again when he sold out an arena there, and I was kind of shouting at him, and he was responding. He didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
He didn't remember me. But just to have that, just to be the asshole in the crowd, to say those things, to get him to answer back and make fun of me.
Yeah.
That made my night, man.
Oh, and at a comedy show,
it's all so funny.
Like with good comics can just dish it.
And they can riff off of anything that's happening. That's talent, and he had it. I didn't give him much. I wasn't too out of line, but he asked a question. He's like, "Do the Buckeyes still play at the St. John's Arena?" The St. John's Arena is a really small, old school basketball facility. I'm like, and I was kind of out there, and I'm like, yes, and I said it so I knew he could hear me. And he took it as sarcasm. So he's like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's being a dick." Treating. There was just a simple question, and he just riffed on the way I answered him. And it was, I was with my brothers, and I was so proud.
Oh.
To get his attention.
I got one for you. We had a family friend who went to school somewhere in Wisconsin. The Violent Femmes are a band out of Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, of course.
So
yeah,
the Violent Femmes.
I saw 'em.
There were these guys playing on a street corner playing this music, and he's upstairs getting drunk in his apartment. He's yelling out the window. He's like, "You suck! You guys aren't going anywhere. Get the hell out of here!" It's the Violent Femmes.
It's the Violent Femmes.
And for people that don't know, I mean, their big hit was "Blister in the Sun," and if you look it up,
Blister in
you
the Sun.
definitely heard it.
Yeah, huge hit.
Yeah.
I remember when that was huge, and I saw them in Columbus. Yep, saw the Violent Femmes in Columbus. They had a fella just sitting there beat. You know the wood boxes sit on, and
Oh, yeah,
it's
the
a
cajon.
type of percussion. That's right.
Yep.
And he was playing that all night long, and finally one of the main guys is like, "Hey, I know you think this guy's just sitting on a crate beating on it, but no, that's called the cajon, and he's really good at what he does." Blah 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 blah. And everybody clapped, but that's one thing I do remember about that show. Was
Cool.
his explanation about the guy sitting on the crate on stage. It was funny.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, I don't want to take you up too long because I know it's starting to get late, but I seriously appreciate you doing this. By far, I like this podcast because we got to kind of geek out on stuff that I haven't geeked out on in a while. But I think your story is just, it's not something you hear every day, and I think it's fantastic.
Thanks.
So-
Yeah, I'm a very lucky person in the sense of just enjoying what I do.
Yeah,
It's not heard of anymore. So
totally.
I feel pretty lucky. Yep.
Well, thanks again, brother. I appreciate you.
You got it, Tony.
No, yeah, the Violent Femmes, the best concert, I got to say. If you ever get the chance to go see Counting Crows.
Really? They're going to be in Nashville?